Hi, everyone. My name is Kirk Bachman, and welcome back to The Ultimate Dish. In today's episode, we're speaking with John Percarpio, a certified executive chef, level 1 sommelier, and longtime instructor at Escoffier. Chef John has cooked for Michelin star restaurant Palais Lenbach in Munich, Germany, and he has been the executive chef for various country clubs and hotels. In 2019, he won Manager of the Year at the Renaissance Hotel right here in Boulder, Colorado. In 1999, Chef John had the honor of cooking for Julia Child's 77th birthday dinner at Hemingway's restaurant in Killington, Vermont. Join us today as we chat with Chef John about his culinary journey and how he's helping to shape the next generation of culinary leaders. Good morning, Chef.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you, Chef?
I'm good. First and foremost, thanks for taking time. I know you're busy. And you'll be on the campus. People will notice pretty quickly that we've met, right? So really, really glad to have you on. You know, before I dive into a lot of really interesting topics, you reminded me as we prepared for this that you spent some time with Julia Child, specifically cooking dinner for her 77th birthday. And I really want to talk about that for a little bit. I mean, so many of us in this industry have a profound respect for Julia Child and what she accomplished in her lifetime. Very few of us had the opportunity to meet, much less work with her. I can remember, personally one experience several years ago. She was probably approaching her 90s, where we had a big student event. And there were young students like lined around the building. They didn't really know much about Julia Child other than maybe, Dan Aykroyd's Saturday Night Live skit, right? But let me just tell you, by the time they left, students were in tears. They were laughing. They were applauding. They were all over the board. They knew who Julia Child was. And for several hours and hundreds of students, she was polite, thoughtful, signed, autographed, listened, shared stories. I mean, just an absolutely amazing individual and tremendous proponent of the culinary arts. So, with that as a backdrop, what was it like to have to prepare food for Julia for her 77th birthday?
Utterly nerve-wracking. There was so much energy and so much like focus on the event that it was nerve-wracking. I was the chef de cuisine at the time, so I was in charge of the kitchen. I did have a chef owner over me, Ted Fondulas, but he'd been out of the kitchen for years. He wasn't doing the work. He was just, guiding us. And we shut down the restaurant to the public for that night. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like she bought the restaurant. She made the reservation and Ted shut down the restaurant.
Yeah, I imagine. Good call.
He didn't want anybody else in that building. He didn't want us focusing on any other food. So it was nerve-wracking, but I feel like once we knew we were in good shape, because we were running the 4-star kitchen before it and after it. Once we felt like we were good in shape in the prep, we calmed down. And I just remember asking many times, like, how is she? What's her reaction? And it was so hard to get anything from the waitstaff other than she's enjoying herself. So that was the part, because chefs, we want that instant gratification. We want to feed you and then have you feel great about it. And of course, if you're feeding Julia Child, if she feels great about it, it's just gonna light you up.
You want her to feel really good about it,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes, we tried so hard.
Yeah.
So it was nerve-wracking but rewarding.
Did you have a chance to spend a little bit of time with her?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
She came back after the meal and probably spent almost a half hour in the kitchen with us.
There you go. I love that. I love that. That's a story you share with your kids when they get older, right?
Yep.
And students, I imagine, as well, because it's important for us to remind people who Julia Child is as we go forward, right?
Absolutely. Even before I knew I wanted to cook for a living, I found myself watching Yan Can Cook or The Frugal Gourmet, or once in a while Julia Child, and I would just kind of get drawn in by these chefs who are just enjoying what they're doing and then enjoying the food at the same time. So
and even James Beard before them, right? That was before the age of, you know, rock star chefs and the Food Network and all of that, right? Yeah, those are, we're giving our age away, chef. Right,
that's
right
okay.
there. It is okay. You know, in the same way that you know, that many of us in this industry fell in love with cooking when we were young, regardless of where that came from. And I can't wait to hear your story about that. You graduated from the Culinary Institute of America. You worked at the Little Nell. But I'd love to hear from you some of the memories that motivated you to jump into this career when you were younger. Did you grow up in someone's kitchen? Did your parents cook a lot at home?
So yeah, absolutely. My family is Italian. My dad is Italian, and my mom, you know, various backgrounds, and a little Irish, a little Polish, a little Belgian. But both of my parents cooked. You know, they weren't into convenience foods, and my father, being Italian, really wanted more Italian food being cooked. So my mom kind of had to, you know, cook a lot more Italian food, and just growing up with homemade sauces and fantastic breads. And then I actually was diagnosed with a little bit of a food allergy, not doing really well on processed foods and preservatives. And I went on a diet called the Feingold diet. If anybody remembers this diet, they were giving it to children who were hyperactive. So then my parents really had to cook homemade food for me. And of course they did it, and it was wonderful. And food was always something for us to celebrate and to come around the table. So I did not grow up in a convenience food house. We cooked food, and it was part of holidays and birthdays, and food meant so much. At Christmas Eve, we had a meal of the 7 fishes. We'd have 7 different kinds of seafood. I remember my sister bringing in eel from New York City live, writhing around in a bag, and I'm trying to prepare this eel that night and just having a great time. Yeah, lots of food growing up.
I love that, particularly the ethnic memories, right? And specifically Italian. Stanley Tucci, who you probably know, you know,
Right.
the world famous actor, and now he's got a great, you know, program on CNN. He has a new book out called Taste. It's sort of a memoir, and it's the same stuff. He grew up in New York, but, you know, immigrant family that came over from Italy, and everything was around the dinner table. Everything was around food. His lunches, you know, when he went to school, were a lot more elaborate than his classmates. Same with me coming in, you know, on the German side of things.
Sure.
You know, I would go to school with, you know, Black Forest or apple strudel, where my friends had, you know, Twinkies and, you know, snack pack pudding. So those are great. So where did listen, I'm going to do this for a career. I'm going to go get educated.
Yep.
And then I'm going to do this for a career. When did that pop in?
It absolutely happened in high school. So my father sent me to a college preparatory academy called the Harrisburg Academy from like 5th grade till high school graduation. And I was really being kind of groomed for, you know, he was a physician, he was a dentist, and I was into the sciences and all these things. I was a bit of a rogue wave in other classes, but I also did really well in art. So I was in high school, and I was just really interested in the sciences and how the world actually works. And I was really artistic at the same time. And I decided to get a summer job, and it was at a restaurant. And I went into this kitchen, and I saw how almost like, how it was like controlled chaos. Like it was somehow chaotic, but under control. And the chef was having a great time. He was so positive and energetic, cooking at this Italian restaurant called Rillo's in Carlisle. And it finally clicked on me. I was like, wow, this is it. This world that I'm in right now fits my sort of pirate rogue wave personality. It's utterly artistic, and we're bound by science. I felt like I can do this. I've got the scientific knowledge to understand the food safety and the physics and the chemistry, what we're going to do. But I also have the artistic side to make it beautiful and pleasurable. And I also am a pirate myself. I felt like I would join this band of hooligans, and we'll go ahead and have a great time. So I knew it in high school, and I decided to apply to the CIA. And my dad was kind of like, cooking, you know, maybe shoot your, you know, maybe think about this. And then once he saw how serious I was and how determined I was, he was like, go for it. And then
Great parenting, great parenting. Yeah,
he came out and ate at the Little Nell and was really happy. So that was it.
Oh my gosh, we'll get to that in a second. I want to emphasize a couple of things that you mentioned there. I love the analogy of a pirate. It's your new nickname around here, by the way. So I've never, thought pirate when I thought about you. I always kind of thought, somebody that follows the rules, right? But I love that. A French chef once said to me, as I was probably frantically running around the kitchen, he pulled me aside and said, always know that all eyes are on you, right? So you have to gracefully move through the kitchen so that controlled chaos, it's by design, right?
Yes.
One of the simplest sort of pieces of advice they gave me was, when you know that you've got to move to the other side of the kitchen for something, stop and think about everything that you need on that side of the kitchen. Rachel Ray used to do this on television. She used to take a big stainless steel bowl over to the refrigerator and put everything in it and then bring it to her workstation. So it wasn't frantic, right?
Right.
So absolutely love that. Speaking of calm and not so frantic, we've got to talk a little bit about the Little Nell, right? Bobby Stuckey was on with us not too long ago.
I work with him every day.
Unbelievable. I mean, I'm getting chills. First of all, Little Nell set the stage. This beautiful boutique hotel restaurant at the base of the mountain in Aspen, Colorado. I mean, it is a temple, right?
It's impressive.
And you worked there when George was there, George McAfee, right?
Yep, I sure did.
What a crowd. So, Bobby came from Thomas Keller and the French Laundry, and George had his own reputation. You probably can't see it, but behind me, I've got a menu from the Little Nell signed by George, many, many moons ago. Again, not going to give the age away, but what was that like? So you knew what you were going to do. You went to the CIA. I'm just fascinated to learn how the Little Nell became an opportunity for you at a time when the Little Nell was like one of the premier spots in the nation.
It absolutely was. So how did that become an opportunity for me? I did my externship from culinary school, and this is one of my springboard lectures for our students. They're like, oh, externship. I'm like, yeah, externship. I was working at Brillo's in Carlisle as the job before culinary school. And because I went to culinary school, I had an externship to go on and fulfill those requirements. So I went up and we had to go to the library back then and actually look in a book to the externship sites that were available. And the Little Nell was one of the newest ones listed. And I just applied to it. And I was actually hired by Richard Chamberlain.
No way.
He was the chef of the Little Nell first.
Yeah.
Yes. So
wow.
He hired me, and I was 19 years old, and I went out there and I tried as hard as I could. Definitely didn't make it to the hotline during my externship from school, but they had me on pantry. They had me on the garde manger, and we called garde manger the bear, because you have to wrestle first courses and last courses. So I really showed them how hard and dedicated I was. And they offered me a job later in my career. I went to Skamania Lodge in Washington, but I was like, I want to go back to Aspen. I applied back to the hotel, and there were people who remembered me, and Mahaffey brought me back. So he brought me
listen,
back.
The Northwest is a beautiful place too. I'm very familiar with that.
Yes.
That spot as well. So, how does Europe tie into all of this? When were you in Munich?
So Europe ties into this. I left the Nell. And then went to Hemingway's restaurant where we had the Julia Child event.
Okay.
And while I was in Vermont, I started connecting back with a German gal that I met years ago, who's now my present wife. And we reconnected, and she was traveling to Vermont to see me in the spring and the fall. And I would then travel to see her in a little bit in the winter and the summer, and we would try to put this all together. And she's like, do you want to come live and work in Europe? And it's so daunting to try to go live and work in another country. But having her there as my ambassador and my helper to help me with all the paperwork and the visas and the Abmeldungs and everything you have to do in German. So she really helped me make it happen. But then when I got there, I had to find my own job, and I wanted to do it so badly. And I think this is the reason you're asking me this question. I wanted to do it so badly because I really felt like there was a mystery I needed to unravel. Everybody kept talking, oh, well, in France they do it like this, well, in Italy they do it like this, and in Germany, you think of the European chefs and the European heritage. This is where all fine classic cuisine was coming from. So there was a mystery that I had to resolve in my head, like, what's different?
Yeah.
What's so special?
Was it necessary? Was there a point where it became necessary to be on your resume for you?
I wanted to make it. It was necessary for me.
Yeah,
because I had the opportunity. Maybe if I didn't quite have that opportunity, I don't know if I would have been able to get it all done myself. Trying to live and work and succeed at the same time. But having the help from Sabina, I had to go do it. There was no way I was going to turn that down. Let's go to Europe. Let's do this.
I love that. Sprechen Sie ein bisschen Deutsch?
Ja, natürlich, weil meine Frau Deutsch ist, weißt du schon.
Sehr gut. So fast forward, when you had time to reflect, come back to the States, you have it on the resume, it's in your soul. Was it everything you needed it to be? And does it still impact you today, the time that you spent in a different country, a different culture, different cuisine, so on and so forth? I'm trying to get this across to our listeners that travel's important, and exposing yourself to new and different cultures is critical.
It was absolutely eye-opening, life-changing. I learned so much. It was humbling. It was a roller coaster. I have story upon story. I mean, one of the stories was I got actually an interview at a Michelin 3-star restaurant called Restaurant Am Marstall. I was shaking. It took me over a month to get the interview, all the communications back and forth. I had on an Italian suit. I had a leather briefcase. I walked into this place. It was gorgeous. Yeah. Everybody there was gorgeous. I was like, wow, this is super cool. And I walk in and they're like, you have an interview with the chef. Please wait here. And this is all in German. And I'm like, I hope I'm understanding everything. And he came into the interview room. And I said to him in German, I said, Entschuldigung, aber sprechen Sie langsamer bitte, which means, excuse me, can you speak a little more slowly? And he replies to me in German, mein Küche ist kein Sprachschule, and walked out. He said, my kitchen's no language school. My interview lasted 10 seconds. I said one sentence and got turned away. Yeah. That's the roller coaster part. Just like, wow, like I was crushed.
The emotional,
I was crushed. So I continued at the Goethe Institute to learn German. I got my second interview and the chef spoke some English. We got along fine. And he said, we'll hire you after you graduate from Goethe. So I got a job when I got my language skills down. So that's the other lesson. You have to get your language skills. Don't expect them to speak English.
Sure. Do your mise en place. Yeah.
That's right.
Yep. So let's segue a little bit into, and I love this topic, that this idea of continued education throughout your career, right? I know that you've been certified as a executive chef through the American Culinary Federation. I believe you're going through the recertification as we speak, which I'm super, super thankful for and respectful of. And I'm also really respectful to any chef educator who puts the work into continuing to improve, right? Continuing education. Of the many reasons, chef, to become a certified executive chef with the American Culinary Federation, or to put yourself out there with any organization, professional elevation, what are some of the reasons that you went after this sort of recognition, and how does that type of recognition still serve you today? Is there value? Is there value for you?
Yeah, I mean, so the reason I was going for it was I was in my second executive chef position. The first one was a little rough. It was working for the broker restaurants. and it was a business that was not maintained very well, and it was a very frustrating executive chef position. My second one was at a country club, and the country club was much more financially stable, and the business was more predictable, and my staff was better, and I actually was growing into the position. I was like, wow, I'm doing this. Like, I'm getting this done. I'm doing a good job. So I thought to myself, I need to now make myself recognizable as qualified to do this job. This is not an easy job. Most people crumble when they try to become an executive chef. They can't handle all the facets that are so different, from purchasing to receiving to training to scheduling to hiring to firing to then creating menus and commanding this team. And I felt like I was doing it. And I'm like, I should get certified at this. And then what I did was, part of the certification was to do a self-evaluation and a self-inspection of your kitchen. And I thought, man, this is cool stuff. I was already doing a better job simply by looking at the job I was doing. And the certification was forcing me to do this.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is fantastic. So I got the certification. I passed the cooking part. I passed the written part. And thank God I don't have to do that again. The ACF just wants me to get my continuing education hours, and they will honor my title back to me. And does it still have value today? I mean, there's lots of people who say you don't have to join the club. And there's lots of people that say, oh, it's not really respected much anymore. I beg to differ. Big hotels really like certifications. It proves to them that you've got the chops. You can do this.
Yeah.
And it really matters. And I like hotels. I think they're great companies to work for. They're financially sound.
Well, the whole idea of self-evaluation, like you mentioned, and continuing to improve your skills. And yeah, there's this whole idea of whatever it is, 80 to 100 continuing education hours every 5 years to keep your certification current, is brilliant in many ways, right? It keeps you on the edge of what's going on in the industry. So do you find sometimes, chef, that young culinarians today, students in particular, are more curious about these types of organizations to join, or is it something that they don't have much time or interest in?
No, I think they do. I think it's how it's presented. So I present it to my classes every time I go over the syllabus, because it's listed in my syllabus for foundations.
Nice.
I touch on the ACF. I touch on what it's all about. I asked them, do you know what a certified master chef is? And they're like, yes. I'm like, well, this is where it's coming from. And I let them know that that's one title above what I have. And I am working my entire career with an AOS degree, just like you're achieving at Escoffier right now. I try to correlate my experiences so that they can see themselves following a path to success as well. You just have to put in the work. You have to put in the time.
And you're super, super humble, and that's what we appreciate about you. They're also looking to you, right? They see your skill set, the way you command yourself in the kitchen, and they, for the most part, probably hang on every word. So I love that. Well, while we're on that topic of additional knowledge, you are also a level 1 certified sommelier by the Court of Master Sommeliers, which is really important there. Before I ask a couple of questions about that, can you explain, from a stacked ranking perspective, where are you if you're a level 1 sommelier? You know more than the average bear, right?
You know more than the average bear. That's the level. That's the level. It's the entry level.
Okay.
It's the entry level, but what it is there's so many chefs who want to enjoy wine and appreciate wine, but they don't necessarily want to delve into all of the vinification, all of the grape farming and the actual winemaking and how it all works, and then the flaws, and then when they have to maybe pair wine with food, they're going to need a professional. I didn't want to do that. I told myself that if I study this, I can do this. And this was one of the greatest moments in my career as well. It was when Robert Hall from Robert Hall Winery came to the Ranch Country Club. Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's called Robert Hall Wine Dinner. He came to the Ranch Country Club to meet me because I was doing wine dinners and people were bragging about him. So what I said to myself was, if I'm a chef and I do a wine dinner, I have to rely on a sommelier. I don't want to rely on him. And the wine is finite, it's already made. So I would reverse the wine dinner process. I would taste wine first, pick out the wines that were balanced, then I would write dishes to go with that wine, where most chefs would write a menu on what they want to create and hand it to a sommelier, match wine to this food.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, the wine's made, I'll match the food to the wine. And
brilliant.
and it worked.
In terms of so this whole notion of continuing education and learning more, regardless of where you are in your career, you know, ACF, wine knowledge, what's next for, you know, a culinary instructor, a chef in the industry? There's so much coming at us. We're coming out of a pandemic, plant-based cuisine, holistic wellness cuisine. Are these all topics that you feel we have to continue to improve our skill set around? Because they're not trends anymore, right? They're not trends. Yeah.
No, it's absolutely our next step. It's our next step. It's our next chapter, and we have to make this our next step, our next chapter. What we're doing is not really sustainable in many ways as a society. So if we just look at food, you know, looking towards more plant-based options and being more responsible with how the food is produced and whatnot is definitely going to be our future, and it's definitely going to be where we're going to see the future of culinary arts, for sure.
Yeah, totally agree. And so I'm gonna embarrass you a little bit here. You've taught with us here at Escoffier for close to a decade now. You bring a wealth of experience from the industry. You command the attention and the passion of your students like no chef instructor I've ever seen before. And I mean that sincerely. You know, I'm not far from your classroom. I always find myself pausing when I walk around the campus. Number one, your preparation, and I'm going to set the tone here for those MTV fans from yesteryear, right? So you engage the students with your preparation, your commanding voice, your understanding of the subject matter. And what always blows me away, remember MTV Unplugged, where Kurt Cobain is on stage or Bruce Springsteen's on stage and the whole crowd comes around the stage, and you do the exact same thing in the kitchen. Anytime that you're doing a demo, it's kind of like it's theater in the round, right? People are wrapped around you. So whether it's a tenderloin or a whole salmon, you're in there, and your students are inches away from you. And I think that's an amazing way to teach. Students like to learn by doing, right? By touching, by feeling, by like seeing every single, step in the process. So one, I thank you for that. And here's my question, Chef. As your role, when it comes to your role as an instructor or just a teacher in general, what's your motivation to inspire those students? So two different things, right? Motivation, inspiration. How are you motivated to inspire those students every single day? Where's that style come from?
So how am I motivated to inspire these guys? Is because I still haven't lost a love for this craft. I still haven't lost it. And there were people in my life that helped me find this passion. And really, ultimately, end of the day, that's what I'm trying to do for those students. So I haven't lost the motivation. I haven't lost the drive. I still get excited if I cut into a beautiful orange and just look at it's that radial symmetry that's so just like a flower. I still haven't lost it. And I think when you have that kind of energy, it gets a little infectious with other people who have this drive as well. So I'm motivated every day because this is still what excites me. When I'm gardening or fishing or hunting, this is all to end up on a table, and these are my hobbies. And when I'm cooking for my family, it's all still part of how I celebrate life, and it's also how I earn money. So it's been this sort of all-encompassing career for me. So I get motivated to help them find that in themselves. And when I go into the kitchen, if if my preparation is beautiful, I mean, they walk into the kitchen, I have everything ready for them. It starts the tone of the day that this is important. I'm ready for you. You are ready to learn, and the stage is set. All we have to do is start the show together. And they typically respond very well to me being prepared, so that I'm not worried about the aspects of the kitchen and the physical setup of the kitchen, and that I'm excited even about just making bechamel. And we talk about the onion PK, and I say the onion PK looks like a little mouse, and the students are like, "Do we cook the mouse?" I'm like, "You cook the mouse." and then, so, we have to enjoy our lives, and we have to enjoy our work. And I think if you find the right job, you can do both. And that's
I love that. Well said. You mentioned energy. I don't want to let this get past, because I learned this about you not too long ago. Talk about exercise and how important that is in keeping, your mind and your body in focus, and in keeping that energy level, at a very, very high peak every single day. You've got a pretty regimented exercise routine, don't you?
I do. I've embraced it in many times in my life. There have been times where I stopped exercising for a little bit. And one of the times was during the pandemic, where I was just trying to figure everything out. Like, I wasn't going to the gym. Nobody was going to the gym. We were all just trying to figure the world out. So I actually started rollerblading back then. So yeah, I go to the gym. I try to go during the week. I go, Monday through Friday. It's not a long time, but it's so important for me, because cooking in a kitchen can be physically taxing. You're over the table, and you don't have the best posture. So it can be taxing to your body. So if you actually exercise and strengthen those muscles, you'll feel better when you're on your feet all day long. And the other part of it is just overall health. I mean, just getting that exercise, I sleep better. And if I sleep better, I feel more energetic in the day. It's just a wellness thing, that if I'm good in mind, body, and spirit, I'm going to be a good father. I'm going to be a good chef. I'm going to be a good instructor. But it's all three: mind, body, spirit.
No, I love that. And I think it's important for us to bring that up. It's easy to get caught up in the kitchens 10 hours, 12 hours, and not taking care of ourselves. So certainly appreciate that. I want to go back to, I mentioned that students learn best by seeing, and then being able to replicate. People are going to laugh, but your toolkit review is legendary within Escoffier. It's so legendary that I ask you to do it at all staff meetings, right?
Yes.
So again, for our listening audience, the toolkit includes the chef's knives that students will use in the kitchens for the very first time, and then also in their careers. Are you open to humming a few lines of?
Of course.
I mean, it's to set the stage. You've got this beautiful toolkit with X amount of pieces, and it's in a roll bag. You unroll it, and off you go.
And off I go. The students are so excited to get this toolkit. We go through the inventory. We go knife by knife, and the first knife we pick up is the French knife, the nice chef's knife. And compared to the knives that I got in culinary school, we didn't get full tang knives. We got connoisseur knives. And I'll start to ask the students, I'm like, what makes a good knife? What makes an expensive knife? And they start talking about metal and Damascus, and we start talking about full tang. And I talk to them about how this knife is made of quality German steel, and this is full tang. And I tell them to pull it out, and we talk about fit and finish. And I tell them to rub your thumb on this handle. Can you feel that rivet? And they go, no, I can't feel it, chef. I'm like, that's good fit and finish. And then I hold it in my hand, and I show them how to grab it with a pinch of the fingers and a wrap of three around the handle. And I say, feel the balance of this knife. How does it feel in your hand? And they like it. And I hold it up and I say, you know what this knife is? This is your Ford F-150. Like, this thing is going to get you back and forth. Is it a Damascus steel knife? No, it's not a Range Rover. You're not overpaying. You're paying the right amount of money for a quality tool that's going to get the work done every day. And I'm telling you, I tell them, if I could pick two knives to take to work every single day, it would be a boning knife and a French knife. I don't need anything else. Give me those two knives and I can get it done. Then if I go over the boning knife, we call that one the Porsche 911 Turbo. That thing's turning corners like the Ford cannot. So peeling melons and peeling all of our fruit, that boning knife has many facets other than boning. So they're so excited to hear about their knives that I tell them about all of the benefits of those knives, and they get really excited.
Yeah, and I think it's super, super important, and to create these analogies in their mind. You know, Chef John says, "This is my Porsche, and here's why." Right? I mean, I could see this like being done on the Jimmy Fallon show, right? You unroll it, people would get unbelievably excited. No, we really, really appreciate that about you, and you know, professionalism, safety, caution, fatigue, all of that stuff comes in. They may as well
Yes.
learn that right off the bat, right? So,
Absolutely.
no, I love that. You know, I was going to mention, you know, you spent a lot of time teaching, obviously a career in the industry, hotels, restaurants, so on and so forth, Europe, United States. I want to take you back. Let's just pick when you worked at the Flats, right, with Marriott.
Mhm.
How difficult was it at times, or how did you approach being a restaurant chef, a hotel chef, the work life balance that seems to be so important to everyone today? Any thoughts on that? And then trying to maybe juxtapose that against being a chef instructor, because it's still a lot of hours, maybe a little different type of stress, right? So maybe take us through a journey on both of those positions.
Absolutely. So that was my fourth executive chef position, and we should get better with each role we take. I knew the business volume of this hotel was larger than what I'd worked with before. So budgetary sizes, you know, I mean, country clubs are in the 2 million range. This place was in the $5 million range for food and beverage over 12 months. So it was more volume. And what I knew from my past experience was, in order to achieve that good work-life balance as an executive chef, I need the right people with the right training in the right position for the right amount of business coming at me. You give me those four things. You give me the right person that's been trained properly in the proper position for the business levels coming in. It's a dance then. It's a joy. You just feel like you can do 300 for breakfast, no problem. And the food's fresh and the dishes are being caught up on, and the turnover is gorgeous. Same thing with dinner, and same thing with banquets. So for me, the ultimate goal as the executive chef, staffing and training and educating and giving them a place to work where they feel respected and that they have a future and a chance to grow. I wanted retention. We focus so much on our associate engagement with White Lodging. Are your associates engaged? Do they feel like you're a good boss? We were constantly making sure that the people at that hotel felt like they had a good job, and then they really couldn't just walk down the street and make more money. We talked about having the 4 F's for them, making sure that they had their time with their family, time with their friends, sufficient finances, and that they could eat some food when they were here.
Oh,
so if they
I
had
love
the
that.
four,
Yeah.
we had the 4 F's. We were taking care of that staff, and we retained staff. My breakfast cook was there for 16 years. I had line cooks at dinner for 6 and 7 years. That's the key. If you have that as a chef, your work-life balance is fine because your staff can maintain, and you need to support them when necessary. So if that falls apart, your work-life balance can get a little rough. All of a sudden, you got to start picking up a lot more tasks and a lot more responsibilities.
Sure.
So for me, that's the key to work-life balance, is focusing on your human resources and your staffing and your training. And that really equates over to my experience at Escoffier. You guys only made me a better trainer. I only became a better educator. So when I moved into the hotel position, I focused so heavily on educating my staff and training them, and then keeping them engaged. So because I knew it would pay huge benefits for me. So for teaching, though, it's a different balance, meaning when I have my student contact hours, it's mentally tiring. It's not as physically tiring. It's mentally a little bit tiring. So you have to prepare before and after, and make sure that you're ready for those 5 hours. That's the key to the teaching job for me, is making sure that I'm all caught up on all of the aspects and the requirements of the job, making sure that I'm ready for lecture, ready for lab, understanding what demos I'm going to do that day. And then so that when I walk in and it's student contact time, I'm available to them, and they can use me as a resource as much as they want. And it doesn't feel to me like I don't have time for them, because all the other work's done. I do have time for you right now. What's
No, well said. And your group of students at any given time come from all walks of life and different
cohort.
career aspiration. Every cohort
every cohort
is
every
different.
time.
Yeah. No, that's really good advice. And I love the 4 Fs. The 4 Fs. That's
4 Fs.
Brilliant. So ahead of its time almost, right? You hear a lot more about taking care of employees today, post pandemic, than we did, a decade ago. But sounds like you guys were on a path already with White Lodging.
Hats off to that company. They really honored the employee.
That's great. Hey, so Chef, one last thing that I'll ask you to share. The name of the podcast is The Ultimate Dish. So you've cooked a lot, you've eaten a lot, you've taught a lot. What in your mind is the ultimate dish?
So the ultimate dish in my mind is one that just evokes emotion. When we look at the science of cuisine and how your olfactory senses and your taste and flavor all are surrounded by the emotions in your brain, the ultimate dish is the one that gives you that feeling that you don't forget. And I had an idea of what is the ultimate dish in my eyes, and I really couldn't come up with a specific dish, but I came up with an experience that I had was in Italy, and we were in Sicily. Actually, I was on my honeymoon, and they have fish of the day, of course, but then the server said that the chef prepares an imbrodo, just a broth, when he gets his fish in, and that it's one of his specialties. And I'm like, a fish broth. I'm like, all right, I'll try it. And it literally came out in a little bowl, and it was fish broth with a little piece of charred bread on the side, a little piece of grilled bread, and just the depth of flavor and the freshness of the fish, and the fact that I was sitting in Sicily, near the beach with the Mediterranean,
with your
all
new
around
wife,
me,
yeah,
with my new guys, my friends. I tell you, life does not get better. And then we were sipping some Vernaccia di San Gimignano at the same time, and I literally sat there, and I'm like, a lightning bolt could strike me right now, and I would be up in heaven. I'd be like, I did it. I
smile on your face.
I found the ultimate pleasure in life, and it was just such a brilliant moment. So I think that's the ultimate dish, is when all of that comes together and you give people these kinds of memories, and they want to come back to your restaurant or your establishment, your hotel, whatever,
or your table. Yeah.
It's just that feeling. It's not necessarily the ingredient. It's the complete experience.
The best responses are like yours are always around food memories. I absolutely appreciate and love that.
Yeah.
And Chef, you are as advertised. You're so appreciated here at Escoffier. Thank you for what you continue to do every single day. And I'll probably see you in a few minutes.
My pleasure, Chef. Always a pleasure. Never a chore.
Thanks for being here. Thank you for listening to the Ultimate Dish Podcast, brought to you by Auguste Escoffier School of Culinary Arts. Visit escoffier.edu/podcast, where you'll find any materials mentioned during the podcast, including notes, links, and other resources. You can also browse other episodes and subscribe.